Welcome to Mobile News Weekly. I'm Martha DeGrasse. This week we'll update you on the exploding demand for smartphones, and we'll show you how some countries are using wireless technology to bypass the banking system. First, a new report from Juniper Research says global smartphone sales are set to top the 1 billion mark by 2016. That's 1 billion new phones a year. Last year, 300 million smartphones were sold, and that number could reach almost 500 million this year. Strategy Analytics estimates year-on-year smartphone sales were up 71% for the quarter ended in June. 20 million of the smartphones sold last quarter were Apple iPhones. iPhone and iPad sales propelled the Silicon Valley comeback kid to record profits of $7.79 per diluted share for the second quarter, more than double profit in the year-ago quarter. Apple followed up the better-than-expected earnings report with the release of its new OS X Lion operating system. Tech reviewers are generally positive on OS X Lion, but say it could take some getting used to. The Wall Street Journal's Walter Mossberg says Lion will require a major adjustment even for veteran Mac users, though it will be easier for those who use iPhones or iPads. And iPhones will soon be available to 500 million more people in China. The world's largest carrier, China Mobile, will start offering the iPhone to its 600 million subscribers this fall, according to the Shanghai Daily. Apple already buys many of its components from China, and now it's looking for more customers in the world's largest cell phone market. And China's largest search engine, Baidu, will pay 3 U.S. media giants for music. Warner, Sony, and Universal sued Baidu back in 2008, saying it linked users to pirated music. The U.S. companies lost the case, but appealed in a higher Chinese court. The new licensing deal settles the lawsuit. Baidu will pay the U.S. companies for every song downloaded or streamed on its ad-supported social networking service called Ting. For users, the music will be free. China is one of the emerging markets where most people don't keep their money in a bank. Worldwide, an estimated 2.5 billion people don't have bank accounts, but many do have cell phones, and carriers see a huge opportunity. Many have started selling mobile credits that can be used as cash. Sylvie Barak has more from Singapore.
Money makes the world go round, and it certainly has the mobile industry spinning as operators, banks, and service providers converge on the space, each trying to carve out their own lucrative niche of the mobile payments pie. Here at the GSMA Summit in Singapore, mobile payments are under the microscope, and money is very much on everybody's mind.
Mobile money may still be in its relative infancy, but it's growing at a spectacular rate with over 100 deployments globally. Indeed, over just a few years, people have already come to accept that mobile payment technology has the potential to change lives of people world over, both the banked and the unbanked.
The developing world's going very strongly, actually. There's over 100 live deployments now across the emerging markets. And we've seen an increase over the last couple of years in those sort of deployments. I think what we're now seeing is that a very similar process that the emerging markets went through is happening again in the developed markets.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think over time, people will be able to leave their wallets at home and just bring their phone. But I think in most markets, in developed markets, making payments is really convenient using your Visa card. So I think that people will have both their wallet and their mobile and their Visa on their mobile phone for many years. But I think we are going to get to a point sometime in the future where all you need is your mobile phone.
Over 1.7 billion people own a phone but have no bank account, presenting a valuable opportunity for operators, service providers, and users alike.
But the one element that we think has most potential is true branchless banking. So neither a mobile wallet nor simply a SMS overlay to an existing bank account infrastructure, which will enable both banks and operators to jointly access and serve the majority of Indonesian population who do not have a bank account today, which is approximately 80%.
Emerging markets, where you really are talking about basic financial services, electronic payment services for the unbanked, the focus isn't on all those value-added services, it's on a low-cost payment.
Certainly, there is no lack of innovation in the space, with mobile broadband, banking, social media, and traditional telecommunications all coming together to forge a new and thriving industry.
So Ericsson works with over 400 mobile network operators around the world, and it has a very strong pedigree in terms of integrating complex networks. And one of the things that we think is very important is interoperability between M-wallets around the world.
Not that the golden path to a mobile payments future isn't fraught with challenges or obstacles. Asking banks and telcos to work together has its difficulties.
We were there when it became the battle between banks versus mobile phone companies. I think that's kind of played itself out, and we've had a coming to terms across all the different operators and all the different banks to say that we can work together to create a solution.
It's interesting. A lot of people use the word battle, and I think externally, if you're looking at it, there is a bit of animosity externally when people consider the competitive positions of these companies. But when you actually talk to the companies, they're very aware of the value that each of the companies brings. So, as I mentioned before, a bank can't really go out and launch an NFC service effectively without engaging with the operator.
I think the reality of it is that the customers have an integration with their mobile phone operator, especially if you look at someone who's prepaid. We as a bank are looking at, and the products are in through FX Micropay, what we're trying to do is be a wholesale provider to the operators or to hubs that are going to be created for mobile payments.
Getting the ecosystem of retailers, merchants, marketers, and customers on the same page is also a learning curve, as are the issues of customer trust and interoperability.
So we have been working very hard, and we try to implement with the banks, with the transportation company, with the retailers, the whole ecosystem that is needed for that. It's quite a long story because you have to get people on the same page at the same pace. So it takes some time to make this happen, but we finally made it.
Operator and bank brands are crucial to the relationship building process, but both also need to bear in mind that user experience and ease of use is key.
From the GSMA's Mobile Money Summit here in Singapore, this is Sylvie Barak for RCR Wireless News, cashing out.
Mobile payments have taken off in Haiti, where the banking system was never robust and cash can be a carrier of cholera. After last year's earthquake, the Gates Foundation and USAID pledged $10 million to incentivize companies to launch mobile payment systems in Haiti. Now, owners of even the smallest businesses can accept payments on their phones. And small businesses here in the U.S. are getting a push towards mobile marketing. We'll have that story when Mobile News Weekly continues. Welcome back to Mobile News Weekly. You know you can use your phone to buy stocks, pay bills, and book travel. But what about shopping with the small businesses in your neighborhood? Some of them may not be online. RCR's Mark Spear shows us what Google is doing to try to change that.
One of the most recognized names on the web hosted events 2 days this week in downtown Austin. Google made a stop in the capital city at La Zona Rosa to host workshops that help businesses in Texas get online.
We've done some research that about 97% of people throughout the country look online for products and services. Yet about 51% of Texas businesses don't have a website. So it's really important for those businesses to survive and thrive, for them to have an online presence. We are going to other places in Texas, and we're beginning to go throughout the state of Texas. But Austin, as I think everyone knows, is a hotbed of small and medium businesses. We have an office here, and we have a great affinity for the city.
Google representatives even gave advice on how to market through mobile devices.
It is part of the broader program, is ensuring you have an effective mobile presence. Mobile is a big part of how people look for products and services, so that is an important part for all businesses to consider when looking at how to promote themselves.
The program offers users a domain name, listing on Google Places, and 1 year of web hosting by Intuit.
This is our Get Your Business Online workshop, where businesses come in who don't have a web presence, and they walk in offline and they walk out online. What that means is we give them a website, a free domain for a year, and free web hosting for a year. And you can actually see in the background, we're helping these businesses design their website, in many cases giving one-on-one support to design their website and get their businesses online.
Ralph Matlack of Intuit told RCR about Intuit's services and the importance of optimizing websites for viewing on mobile devices.
Yeah, so we start them off with a free 3-page website with a custom domain, and then we can take them from there in a couple different places. The easiest way is just to do more. So a lot of times you need more than 3 pages to tell your story about your business, and so we allow you to get more pages. You can get additional domains, you can get email accounts that are embedded with there, and you get more capability to do a bunch of different things like that help you get found or do e-commerce. So today, everybody, the searches that are happening are not just on laptops and desktops, they're happening on mobile devices, increasingly, like exponentially high. And so having a website that can show up, especially on smartphones, is important. And all of our sites can show up good on smartphones, and we believe it's going to be a really important play in the future. We have lots of plans for helping small businesses show up in the mobile space.
Sergio Galindo explained why he decided to build an online presence for his business.
Right now, I just have a business card, so I want to get business based on whoever gets my business cards. But I think this way I can advertise online and generate more business.
For more information and to access the programs on the web, visit texasgetonline.com.
Up next, the latest on Lightsquared and the FCC as they grapple with GPS interference issues. Now the latest on the Lightsquared GPS saga. Following up on its recent filing with the FCC, Lightsquared has indicated it might be willing to exchange some of its spectrum that's currently being interfered with by GPS signals for other bands. But some analysts question that approach, saying there's not a lot of other spectrum available. RCR's Dan Meyer has more on this story.
Meeting the demand for mobile broadband services has been a hot topic across the mobile industry, with carriers, equipment providers, and government agencies struggling to provide the necessary networks, resources, and policies to fill the ever-widening gap. One outside-the-box play in the space is Lightsquared, which announced last year plans to build out a nationwide mobile broadband network using both satellite and terrestrial components. However, since the announcement, Lightsquared's plans have been hindered by interference issues from the GPS industry, which claim the spectrum to be used by Lightsquared interferes with commercial GPS devices.
Lightsquared's transmissions remain in its own band, in the satellite L band, within the MSS frequency band, complying with the out-of-band emission limits that were imposed on us. We do not transmit into the GPS band. The problem is with the GPS receivers. The way they're designed and manufactured, many receivers see outside of the GPS band and into the satellite L band, and thus become overloaded when we're lawfully operating in our own spectrum band.
In looking to clear up the issue, Lightsquared has announced several initiatives it hopes will help alleviate the congestion and allow the carrier to move forward with plans to build out its network.
Another myth is that Lightsquared and GPS cannot coexist. Again, Lightsquared and GPS can coexist. Lightsquared has proposed a mitigation plan that's actually quite costly to us, that really would take one channel of operation out of the equation. So really half of our downlink spectrum. We have 20 megahertz of downlink spectrum, the 10 megahertz channel that's closest to GPS. We're proposing to not operate on that channel in order to allow for the legacy GPS devices to continue to function as intended.
In its recent filing with the Federal Communications Commission, Lightsquared took an aggressive stance in pointing out that interference issues between mobile service using its spectrum and GPS devices using adjacent spectrum bands were being caused by loose GPS devices that did not include sufficient filtering capabilities.
We can tighten up those filter skirts as engineers. We know how to do that. And the folks who build GPS receivers know how to do that. And Lightsquared knows how to do that. And they've offered to provide filtered antenna equipment for the precision GPS receivers. This is a solvable problem.
Lightsquared noted that this issue will put the FCC in the position of having to either allow for such overreaching of spectrum use or reinforce the rights of spectrum owners to access their own frequencies.
Even if there's an option available to the FCC to give Lightsquared a replacement set of spectrum, it actually presents a significant challenge for the FCC. If the FCC does that, then they're essentially abandoning a large swath of spectrum that could perhaps never be used for mobile broadband. And that's a significant issue for the FCC. I don't see them being willing to do that anytime in the near future.
Lightsquared also said that it would be willing to exchange some of its current spectrum holdings nearest to GPS signals for capacity in other bands.
So we can't go indefinitely without that bandwidth. But again, that channel does not necessarily have to be right next to the GPS band.
Dan Hayes, director at PRTM, did note that while the spectrum issue could delay the initial launch of Lightsquared's mobile broadband offering, a rumored deal for spectrum hosting with Sprint Nextel could allow the carrier to meet its longer-term goal of near nationwide coverage by the end of 2015.
But if that deal is true, it actually could significantly accelerate Lightsquared's network deployment. Being able to not have to build an entire cell site and just be able to slide a card into Sprint's radio access network equipment would actually be a completely game-changing moment for Lightsquared that would take their cost of capital down significantly.
While Lightsquared remains committed to meeting its goals for building out its network, hurdles in its way could slow that progress. This is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News.
Up next, we'll take you to Baltimore. Stay with us. Welcome back. The RCR Global Tour and Conference Series was in Baltimore this week. Dan Meyer has more.
This is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News. We're here in Baltimore for the RCR Wireless Mobile Broadband event. Today we're being joined by a lot of companies providing their insight into the mobile broadband space. Companies such as AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint, Lightsquared, and PowerWave have all come to this event to give their insight into how the space is developing. As you can see, turnout's pretty good for the event, and we hope to get a lot of good information from the speakers today.
We felt like, in addition to making wireless something that the local community can palate and understand and benefit from, we also felt like there's an equally important role to help our colleagues within the industry get a better understanding of one topic or another.
During the event's Analyst Angle session, industry observers noted that wireless carriers have become innovative in trying to curtail data usage on their networks. Some have gone with strictly enforced data caps and overage charges. Some have looked to throttle network speeds, while others have simply offered larger data buckets at price points that seem to allow carriers to recoup their investments.
There's alternative ways to provide that via macro cell, and so I think you're going to see more and more attention to, I'll just use the term micro networks, and micro networks meaning small cell, picocell, Wi-Fi, offload. There's a whole new effort and attention to more Wi-Fi as a means of offload, new pico technologies. Things have gotten much cheaper in the decade plus I've been involved in this industry.
During a later session, the topic of mobile broadband networks being used by public safety agencies was approached, which drew several questions from attendees on how such networks can be funded in a sustainable manner.
There's always been the struggle of sustainment that comes with those grants, and that is certainly an issue. But it's going to take creativity in business models. It's going to take a focus on public safety to look at not only just the fact that we are in this process of improving services, but we're also trying to do those more efficiently.
One of the event's more highly anticipated sessions included a presentation by Lightsquared, which is in the process of trying to clear up interference issues with GPS devices as it looks to build out a nationwide mobile broadband network. Jeff Stern, Vice President of Spectrum Management at Lightsquared, presented a broad history of the company's various iterations and current spectrum position.
What Lightsquared is preparing to offer is a fully integrated satellite and terrestrial network. On the satellite side, you get the benefit of ubiquitous nationwide coverage. On the terrestrial side, you get the benefit of having a provider of 4G LTE services. This service will be provided on a wholesale basis, so you will not see a Lightsquared brand necessarily in the marketplace.
Overall, participants at the mobile broadband event remained bullish on the prospects for the space, with most indicating demand for such services is only expected to skyrocket. This is Dan Meyer, RCR Wireless News.
The RCR Global Tour and Conference Series heads to Bellevue, Washington on August 2nd. And in September, the conference heads to the Woodlands in Houston. You can learn more about our conference series if you like RCR Wireless News on Facebook or visit rcrwireless.com. Thank you so much for joining us on Mobile News Weekly. Have a great week.